All right. I told you that I had 5 things.
Yes.
And so I'm going to tell you the 5 things and
Let's
what
do
they
it.
are. 5 decisions that the 49ers made, or 5 reasons that they're at where they're at. Okay. And here we go. The first one happened in 2020 when they traded away DeForest Buckner for a first round pick and then turned around and took that 14th pick in the first round in the 2020 draft and drafted Javon Kinlaw.
Mm-hmm.
They broke the cardinal rule is you never part with guys in your front seven that cause double teams in the prime of their career. And that's exactly what they did. They traded away DeForest Buckner, who they had drafted, great guy, knew their culture, was their culture.
Mm-hmm.
In the prime of his career, they traded him away because of his cap number and his agent. He hired Joel Siegel. They were afraid he was going to get to a crazy amount. They traded him for number one, and then they turned around and instead of just trying to play the draft,
They went specific.
They just said we're going to take this pick. We're going to get the best defensive tackle, and they forced the tackle pick instead of playing it more, playing it smoother. And
could have had Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah, I mean they just blew that. They just absolutely blew that, and they devalued their front seven. They hurt the strength. Their stated strength of their team was we want our D line to be awesome, and then they made 2 moves that took their D line from outstanding to a question mark, and they've never been able to get it back to that point. That's number one.
A lot of money trying to.
Number one. Of money. Yeah. Now they've got Hargrave, and I mean it's just ridiculous.
Collins has been asked this year.
Yeah. I mean, so number one issue right there. That was mistake number one. Mistake number two. That was the 2020 year. Now it's mistake number 2, 2021. Trey Lance.
Goes without saying.
You're sitting at 15. You could have stayed right there, picked Mac Jones if you really needed a quarterback to compete with Jimmy. Mac Jones would have made more sense at 15.
I think they were at 12.
Okay, they're at 12.
Yeah.
Either way, they moved up. They traded 2 number ones in the future plus Lance or plus their pick at 12. So they basically traded 3 picks. Mm-hmm. Then in that 2021 draft, they come out and they have 4 picks in the top 102.
Mm-hmm.
And they go Trey Lance, Aaron Banks, Ray Sermon, Ambry Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what you're looking at is between the picks that they traded to get Lance and those 4 picks, the Niners essentially in that 21 draft went 1 for 6 with their day 1 and day 2 picks.
Aaron Banks is not getting another contract, so that's 0 for 6.
What's that? And Aaron Banks is moving on. Yeah,
they're not going to sign anybody from that, including the 2 picks that aren't theirs, which, by the way, went to Miami and turned out, I think, one to be Jalen Waddle. Right. And the other one got traded for Tyreek Hill. So,
but they had 4 picks in the top 102.
Top 100
after they traded
starter.
for Lance, and they still wound up going 1 for 3. Banks is the only hit. The other guys were misses, terrible misses. And you set yourself back. You did find Demo Lenore and Hufanga and Jalen Moore and Elijah Mitchell on day 3 to save yourself to some degree, but that was that's mistake number 2 was the 2021 draft. Mistake number 3, the 2022 draft. The Niners had 3 picks in the top 105, and they took Drake Jackson, Ty Davis Price, and Danny Gray. And they did wind up taking Burford, Womack, Zakel, and Brock Purdy on day 3 with Kalia Davis. But right there, 3 picks.
That's unbelievable.
3 picks in the top 105, and you went 0 for 3.
Well, 2 of those guys currently don't have real NFL contracts right now, and the other one isn't around the team that he's technically on.
Yeah, it's just a total whiff. Total whiff. That's mistake number 3.
They got one player who's going to get a second contract out of that entire draft, and that's Brock Purdy.
Mistake number 4. Sadly, had to pick on Lynch, the 2023 draft. You had 3 picks in the top of 101 picks, and you came away with Jair Brown, Jake Moody, and Cam Latu.
And maybe
Jair
Hutchinson.
Brown's a player. Maybe Moody and Latu look awful. And day 3, I mean, you have Darrell Luter, you have D. Winters. But after that, I mean, Ronnie Bell, Jalen Graham, Braden Willis, Robert Beal, those guys have all busted.
I'm waiting on a hit here, Lair.
Yeah. So basically,
they had no hits in the 2023 draft. That's one of my favorite little nuggets. They just don't have any players that are going to get another contract out of the 2023 draft.
In 2021 through 2023, those 3 drafts, which essentially is the team right now, the Niners went 2 for 12 on their picks in the first Banks. 3 rounds.
You're including
Banks. With the hits being Banks and Brown.
Yeah, those aren't hits.
So the Niners went 2 for 12 in those 3 drafts.
They're not re-signing either of those guys to a second contract to stay on the team.
Right.
So it's not going to be a hit.
So 21, 22, and 23, those 3 drafts, the Niners, 12 picks in the first 3 rounds, 2 for 12, with Banks and Brown being the hits, no stars.
I also
wait a second. The Detroit Lions in that same window, 21 through 23, first 3 rounds. This is what they've got. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson, Jameson Williams, Kirby Joseph, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. I mean, dude.
Yeah, they went Williams
That's
Branch
it right there.
back to back. That alone.
That's it right there.
Well,
look at all those awesome players. They drafted their entire awesome team between 21 and 23. And the Niners went 2 for 12 in that same period in the first 3 rounds with no stars. None. And they've got every one of those guys I just named as a star for them.
Yeah.
Every one. That's unbelievable. So that's number 4. Number 4 was the 2023 draft. And the 5th mistake was signing Javon Hargrave and depleting the depth, getting rid of Mooney, getting rid of Manuel Mosley and Aziz Al-Shaair and Samson Ebukam, all these guys Jimmy Ward, you got rid of all those guys and you gave all that money to Javon Hargrave. And then Javon Hargrave was terrible against the run. And suddenly you looked up and you're like, we're really bad against the run. I wonder why that is. Well, I don't know. Maybe you depleted your depth and signed one defensive tackle who's not particularly good against the run. I mean, it's just the way they've done this right there. Why are they now on their way to 6-11?
Yeah.
Because of those 5 reasons: the Buckner trade, the 21 draft, the 22 draft, the 23 draft, and the signing of Javon Hargrave and the moves that came along with that. Those 5 reasons sunk this team. And look what Detroit did while they were screwing up. Detroit, with Brad Holmes and John Dorsey as a consultant, were kicking ass, drafting stars. And now look at Detroit. Detroit's super loaded, even though Goff is just a guy. And people are talking about, oh my God, Goff's a god, and Ben Johnson's a miracle worker. But in reality, that's not the story at all. In reality, the story is Brad Holmes is one of the best young GMs in the game, and John Dorsey is an old head, and those two got together and put together just an amazing run of personnel, and that's why they're at. Now, I'm not saying Ben Johnson's not good and Goff's not good, but Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan would look a whole lot better if they had those weapons in that line.
They wouldn't have jobs if they didn't luck out with Brock Purdy.
So it does make you wonder how this thing is going to get better for the Niners, because they
had a great draft in 24.
They had a great draft in 24. Yeah, that's right.
That's the only way. That's the only way. They have to do it again.
They have to keep replicating what they did in 2024.
I gave them an A grade in 24 at the time. I'm looking at a column right now. August 28th. 49ers are still paying for the disastrous Trey Lance pick. Exactly everything. When you do 3 shit drafts in a row, you now have a roster that is fundamentally rotten at the core, and you are overly dependent on star players who have played a lot of football and who cannot be trusted because of the nature of the game of football to perform at that same level year in and year out. It just doesn't work that way. So they go dumpster diving a lot. They get a lot of guys off the street to play serious roles on special teams or hell, even start. They signed a dude off a Disney cruise to be their nickelback for the Super Bowl. Like, it's incredible they had as much success as they did, given the fact that they had drafted so disastrously, so consistently. And yeah, if they didn't luck out by getting the last pick of the draft as right as anyone's ever gotten a draft pick, and I'm not including all the other day 3 wins that they've had, right? Think about the foundation of this team. How many of them were first-round picks? Yeah, Deebo Samuel, 2nd-round pick. Early, but 2nd-round pick. George
Bosa.
Kittle, 5th-round pick.
Bosa,
yeah, Bosa.
Ayuk.
Bosa and Ayuk. That's it.
It's because they struck out in the first round every time.
That's
right.
I
mean, they had McGlinchey. They let him get away because they didn't want to pay him. Probably.
I mean, does that look dumb? I mean, they're paying.
It sure looks dumb to take a right tackle with the 9th pick in the first round. Yeah.
Well, they did it with Penei Sewell with the Lions. That's a little different.
You know? Yeah, but Penei Sewell's the best tackle in the game.
I know, but he's a right tackle.
Yeah, but early. I mean, he's literally the best offensive lineman in the game. McGlinchey, I'm not even 100% sure McKivitz is worse than McGlinchey. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, you can pay somebody $7 million a year to be Colton McKivitz, who's arguably been their best offensive lineman this season.
It just comes down to who you pick, and it's like if you pick right, you draft well, then I get the sense too. It's so much more about that because I get the sense that there's not a lot of even though you would like to think there's lots of coaching, that in reality it's like these players are. It's more about the players than it is about how well they're coached. So it's like it's really more about picking the right players than it is about coaching them up. And I the more time goes on, the more I really believe that. And and if you want to look at the greatest teams in the history of the NFL, go look at what the Cowboys did in the draft in 88 and 89 and 90. You want to look at what the 85 Bears, go look what Jim Finks did in the draft, 81, 82, 83. If you want to know why the Niners were so awesome in the late 80s, 88, 89, 90, they won 2 Super Bowls, almost won 3 in a row. It's because they drafted Jerry Rice in 85, and the 86 draft was like 9 or 10 deep, and they were all starters. Well, guess what? You have a 9-person draft, 10-person draft, all these good young players. All of a sudden, you've got this core of a really good young football team. So, there's no secret to it. It's just why the Lions really good right now because they kicked ass in the last, the 3 drafts prior to this one. Why are the Niners regressing? Because they got their ass kicked in those drafts. It's really as simple as that. So